JBNN, we keep you informed. I am Michelle Jones, and in the news, 51-year-old woman shot, robbed of $300,000. A 51-year-old woman was robbed and shot by a gunman during a robbery in Clamstead district in Limehall, Steertown on Thursday. The woman, who was shot in the leg and has since been admitted to hospital, was robbed of $300,000 shortly after exiting a taxi at her gate. It is reported that the woman, a higgler, went to a financial institution in Northwest in the parish, where she secured a loan of $300,000. She was reportedly issued a check. She then went to a nearby bank where she encashed the check. Police said the woman took a taxi from Motorist and went to St. Anne's Bay. She stopped at a food market for a few minutes, then went home in another taxi. Just as she alighted from the taxi, she was approached by two masked men on a motorbike, one of whom was armed with a handgun. The armed man shot her and took her handbag with the cash. They then escaped. Residents of the area rushed the injured woman to hospital, where she was admitted. Joint Anti-Gang Task Force seized 2 guns over 24 hours. The Joint Anti-Gang Task Force seized 2 firearms during targeted operations. The firearms were recovered in Cambridge, St. James, and Grantspan in St. Andrew on Wednesday, April 6. Reports are that a 9mm Storm Ruger pistol with a magazine containing 3 9mm rounds was recovered during a mid-morning operation in Cambridge. A man was arrested in connection to the seizure. Later that day, members of the task force operating in St. Andrew seized a 9mm Luger M5 pistol with a magazine containing 4 rounds during a snap raid in Grantspan. 3 people arrested in relation to the seizure. Bullet-riddled body of man found in Steertown, St. Anne. The bullet-riddled body of a man was found in a section of the Steertown community in St. Anne on Friday. The deceased has been identified as 21-year-old Omari Archer. Reports are that about 9:15 a.m., residents stumbled upon the body with gunshot wounds along a path in the area. The police were alerted and the body was removed to the morgue. The St. Anne police are investigating. Soldier's gun recovered in dead prostitute probe. The police have found the gun of the Jamaica Defense Force sergeant, who had failed to hand over the weapon, claiming it was stolen after a prostitute was found dead in his car. The weapon will now be subjected to ballistic testing. The woman's bullet-riddled body was found in the soldier's car along Caledonia Avenue in St. Andrew on February 26. Investigations led to 43-year-old Thelafius Tracy being taken into custody and charged with failing to hand over his firearm. Last month, when he appeared in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court, his attorney at law, Peter Champagny, QC, indicated that his client will not be able to satisfy the police's request for him to hand over his firearm as he was robbed of it. However, on Thursday, when the matter was mentioned, the prosecutor indicated that something has now been discovered and that thing is now in the custody of the police, and they need to do more scientific tests to find out what happened to that thing. The court was also told that the police need more time to get further advice from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions on how to proceed and requested another month. Champagny, however, argued that his client has been in custody since February and that it would be unreasonable to remand him for another month. The lawyer also indicated that it was his intention to apply for bail, but the prosecutor told Senior Parish Judge Lauren Cole Montague that the sergeant's stint in the army will be coming to an end soon, and if released, he could flee the country. The judge was also told that Tracy could also interfere with the witnesses, so he should remain in custody. But Champagny countered, saying that there were no witnesses in the case for his client to obstruct unless he is going to interfere with the investigating officer. The judge, in response, said that while she was mindful of the time that the accused has been in custody, waiting until April 28 was reasonable, but that the date was really determined by the earliest convenient date in the court's diary. Consequently, a mentioned date was scheduled for Tracy to return to court on May 2, and he was further remanded. Tracy was charged after he reportedly refused to hand over his gun for ballistic testing in connection with the investigation surrounding the death of the woman. He was interviewed by the police and reportedly produced his firearm user's license and the license fee certificate, but reportedly refused to hand over the weapon, claiming that he wanted to speak to his attorney first. It has been alleged that he later informed the police that he was robbed of the firearm. Greenwich Town resident rejoices as government replaces leaky house. When dark clouds begin to gather, Avis Morrison will not have to worry anymore that as soon as it begins to rain, she would have to scramble with several containers to catch water from the roof that leaks profusely into her house. Describing her living condition for many years as deplorable, Morrison said that her earnest desire was to get a house that was suitable to live in. I had to use a ladder to get on the old step each time rain fall, to put tarpaulin up there and set pans although it was there, she said. That dream to occupy a more comfortable dwelling and to call it her own came true yesterday when she was presented with the keys to a new 3-bedroom house on 2nd Street in Greenwich Town, St. Andrew, by Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Residents of the community cheered when the announcement was made at a ceremony in the community, where Holness got the ribbon to officially hand over the $5.6 million house to Morrison, who has lived in the area for decades. The senior resident said that she had a conversation with St. Andrew Southwestern Member of Parliament, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, who informed her about the government's social housing program, and she applied for a benefit. Although she waited for 4 years before being offered a house, Morrison said that she was grateful. "There are not enough words to explain how I'm feeling right now. I'm grateful to my Member of Parliament, and I'm grateful for the housing project that the Prime Minister come up with," she said gleefully. Commenting on the project, the Prime Minister said that a simple design was used to build the structure, but it allows for further expansion if Morrison so desires. "The house is given to you, but it's not free. It is paid for by the taxpayers, and therefore, what we ask from you in exchange for this house is that you must be an example to the community, an example of hope, an example of peace in the community," Holness exhorted Morrison. According to Holness, the idea behind the project is to assist those who are disposed and to give them hope. "What I was particularly pleased about in handing over the keys to you is that the community was so happy for you getting the house," he said. 4 freed of quadruple murder and arson charges. 4 alleged members of the feared Stinger Gang, implicated in a gruesome quadruple murder, were on Thursday freed of murder and arson charges in the gun court. Navado Lyons, Jermaine Myers, Dacian Pellington, and Gerald Robinson were also freed of illegal possession and ammunition charges after they were found not guilty of the charges by Justice Leighton Pusey during a judge-alone trial. The men were fingered in a deadly shooting incident on May 24, 2010, in Whitfield Avenue in St. Andrew, in which Wesley Knowles, otherwise called Brother, Marlon Tate, otherwise called Biggs, Romeo Hamilton, also known as Shadow, and Rayon Brown, all of Whitfield town addresses, were killed. The Crown led evidence that about 12:45 a.m. on the day of the incident, the 4 men went to the community and entered the premises and shot and killed the victims before firebombing their house and fleeing. All 4 victims were burnt beyond recognition. During the trial, the Crown called 2 eyewitnesses, another alleged gang member who reportedly drove the men to the scene, and a resident who was said to be home during the attack. However, during cross-examination by the defense, the alleged gangster-turned-witness could not recall vital aspects of the incidents, as several inconsistencies between his evidence and statement were highlighted. The resident, during her cross-examination, conceded that she could not identify the defendants as the attackers who were wearing masks on the night. However, during cross-examination by the defense, the alleged gangster-turned-witness could not recall vital aspects of the incident, as several inconsistencies between his evidence and the statement were highlighted. The resident, during her cross-examination, conceded that she could not identify the defendants as the attackers who were wearing masks on the night. The defense called 1 witness, who testified that the female resident was not present during the attack, as she was with him at his home. Consequently, the judge, in making his ruling, indicated that he found the witnesses to be unreliable, and further, that the Crown had not proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. Attorneys at law Peter Champagny, QC, and Jacqueline Asher represented Robinson. Kemar Robinson represented Lyons, while Robert Armstrong appeared for Myers. Attorneys at law Patrick Peter King and Najee MacDonald both represented Pellington. Jamaica reports 20 new COVID-19 cases, 12 more deaths. Jamaica reported 20 new cases of COVID-19 and 12 fatalities on Friday, according to the latest statistics from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. This pushed the total number of cases of the virus since the start of the pandemic to 128,992 and the death toll to 2,914. Of the newly reported cases, there were 8 females and 12 males with ages ranging from 1 day to 108 years. The cases were recorded in Clarendon 1, Kingston and St. Andrew 2, St. Anne 4, St. Catherine 2, St. James 4, Manchester 1, St. Mary 2, Trelawney 1 and Westmoreland 3. The deceased are a 63-year-old male from Trelawney and a 94-year-old male also from Trelawney, who both died in January 2022, an 83-year-old male, a 65-year-old female, a 37-year-old female, a 55-year-old female, a 74-year-old male, and a 90-year-old male. All of the victims hailed from Trelawney. Their deaths occurred in February 2022. An 87-year-old and a 33-year-old female from Kingston and St. Andrew were also among the latest victims. Their deaths were recorded in April 2022. There were 2 additional deaths from October 2021. They are a 69-year-old and an 83-year-old female from Trelawney. The country also recorded 71 new recoveries, bringing the total number of recoveries to 81,883. The country's positivity rate now stands at 2.1%. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.